So hello from the 27th Crime Commission here at the United Nations in Vienna. I'm Reka Furtish, and here with me today is John Brandolino, UNODC Director for Treaty Affairs, and Gillian Murray, Deputy Director for Policy Analysis and Public Affairs. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. First, I'm turning to you, John. Human trafficking is a grave violation of human dignity and human rights. So in this sense, we can say that even one human trafficking victim is one too many. But can you tell us more about the extent of this crime?
Well, yes, as you said, it's a heinous crime. Trafficking in persons involves exploitation and coercion of individuals, often for very difficult situations, putting them in terrible circumstances, such as forced labor, forced marriages, just to name a few. The extent of the problem, it's definitely worldwide. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime has actually put together a report which comes out every 2 years. We take data from well over 100 countries to determine the extent of the problem around the world. In fact, our next report will be coming out just this year. And what we see is that not only is it a worldwide problem, but the problem really is different in each region and sometimes different in each country. So for example, in Latin America, you will see that trafficking is generally for forced labor. If you look at the European situation, you see a lot of trafficking for sexual exploitation purposes. So it really does depend. And then again, if you look at individual countries, a lot of trafficking occurs even domestically within a country. We do know also that the victims of trafficking worldwide, that probably close to 75% of victims are women and children. So it also shows you the extent of just the damage done by this crime.
What are the major challenges in battling this crime, and what is UNODC doing in this field?
Well, there are a lot of challenges in dealing with trafficking in person. Often they are victims that are in the midst of us. We may see them on the streets, we may see them in our day-to-day lives, but we just can't tell that they're being trafficked. Also, it's a crime where there needs to be response and there needs to be education from a number of actors. So we need to, for example, not only get law enforcement involved in detecting trafficking persons, we also need to get community leaders, we need to get medical people, we need to get politicians, we need to get lots of people involved in trying to detect the crime.
And what is UNODC doing in this field?
Well, we have it's a three-level approach to trafficking in persons. First is we look at the normative side. We ensure, as I mentioned, the need for legal frameworks. We make sure not only that these legal frameworks are developed internationally, but also that they're applied and that they're accepted by countries around the world. And we do have such a main legal framework. It is the legal framework, international framework for addressing trafficking in persons. It's the Protocol on Trafficking in Persons to the UN Convention on Transnational Organized Crime. The second part is to make sure we have the data, so we know the extent of the problem, we know what's happening in particular countries, particular regions, and as I mentioned, we have a lot of people working on that. Our research section puts out every 2 years this report a global report on trafficking in persons, and so we not only need to understand the problem ourselves, we need to ensure that others understand it around the world. So this data is disseminated quite widely. And then the third level is the assistance. We need to go into work with countries, go into individual countries, help them address the crime, provide them the capacity to do so, help them with their setting up the legal frameworks. And we do this through our global program on trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants. We've been in the last year, we've provided assistance to over 70 countries around the world.
As I mentioned, we are here at the 27th Crime Commission. Why is this session this week especially important?
Well, the Crime Commission is really, it's the main policy-making body of the United Nations on crime issues, and of course that includes trafficking in persons. And so what's important is that it meets every year, and we get people from all over the world to come together. It's an important forum to not only bring everybody together to learn more about what's happening on this issue, what are people experiencing, what are and it's a good information gathering process, but also to think about the new trends, think about what types of of pronouncements we want to make, and they do this in the form of resolutions. The Commission will make resolutions. They will basically develop commitments and guidance for governments on going forward to address the issue, often looking at new developments related to the issue. As an example, at this Crime Commission, we have 3 resolutions related, separate resolutions related to trafficking in persons, and because one of the focus of this crime commission, the main focus is cybercrime, we actually have a resolution that looks at technology, the use of technology, not only how to counter that, its use in exploiting people, like particularly children and women in trafficking in persons, but also the use of technology to counter it. And so this is a very important week specifically for this issue.
Thank you very much. As John said, Gillian, I'm turning now to you. A lot of people, governments and civil society and individuals have to be made aware of this crime. And here is where your branch comes in. They are working to raise awareness on human trafficking. Can you tell us about your work in this regard?
We're trying to raise awareness to the public of this crime. We work very much with John's team. And for this purpose, actually, we do various things. We work on social media, we have campaigns, PSAs, etc. But one thing we have done is we've launched the Blue Heart campaign. And that is an awareness-raising campaign to fight human trafficking and make the public aware.
And what is this Blue Heart? What does it stand for? And can you tell us a little bit more about the campaign in detail?
This is the Blue Heart, and we encourage everybody to wear it. It's blue. It's the UN blue, and the purpose of that is to show the commitment of the UN to fight human trafficking. It also reflects the sadness of the victims and the cold-heartedness of those who sell our fellow human beings. We would like that everybody is aware of this. We're trying to make it like the pink ribbon for breast cancer or the red ribbon for HIV/AIDS, so that it's known, and when people see it, they know exactly what it's for. We reach out to governments, to civil society, to the corporate sector, and to individuals, to everybody. Many people are trafficked on airlines. We've been reaching out, we've been working very closely with IATA, and we've been reaching out to various airlines to take this on board, to make them aware. And we're looking also at reaching out to the hospitality sector, because that's another crucial area.
And what can people do? What can our viewers do, for example?
Well, they can support the campaign, that's the first thing. They can organize events, they can share materials. There's a lot of materials on our website, and there's a lot of ideas there. There's another angle. They can also support the UN Victims Trust Fund for victims of human trafficking, especially women and children. And there's a link online for this, and no matter how small a contribution is, $20, it all counts and it helps, and it goes directly to the victims. It does not go to UN costs or overhead costs or anything. So this is another area where we can work.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for our viewers for watching.